We touched on this last week with you when you suggested that we should help Mexico as soon as we vaccinated everyone here. But this brings up all kinds of questions. We knew that there was going to be some vaccine nationalism happening. We're seeing it play out right now in the EU, where Italy has said that they're not going to allow vaccines manufactured there to be sent to Australia. But I think it really gets down to the question of what should we do? Obviously, if we haven't stopped it around the globe, it's still going to be circulating. But it seems to me that it would be pretty difficult for any U.S. politician to say, OK, let's send what we have to other countries before we've vaccinated every adult who wants it here, especially when the politicians were the first ones in line to get these vaccines.
Right. And look, in 2009 with H1N1, we had vaccine that was being manufactured against that flu in Australia and in Canada. And both Australia and Canada wouldn't allow the doses that were destined for the United States to be shipped to America until they had satisfied their local needs. And on the flip side of that, we were manufacturing vaccine in the United States for the UK in a GlaxoSmithKline facility, and we wouldn't let that vaccine leave our country until the Prime Minister called President Bush and implored him to let that vaccine go. So this is not a new issue. In the setting of a public health crisis, you're going to see these nations take actions to protect themselves and make sure that their local needs are satisfied before they allow critical medical products to be shipped outside their borders. Look at Regeneron. Regeneron has two manufacturing facilities, one in Ireland and one in New York. They moved all the drugs that they manufacture in their New York facility over to Ireland to free up their entire New York facility to manufacture the COVID antibody drug. Why would they do that? Why didn't they just make that COVID antibody in their Irish facility? Because I bet they knew that if they had manufactured that COVID antibody in their Irish facility, they wouldn't be able to bring all of it back into the United States. It would have been held on to. So we have long known that there'll be nationalistic activities, not just among unfriendly nations, but among friendly nations in the setting of a public health crisis where people are going to take care of their own interests first. Now, the bottom line is there's a tremendous amount of supply coming online in the United States from the U.S. manufacturers, including Pfizer, the company I'm on the board of. That vaccine is going to be made available around the world. But in terms of satisfying the entire global demand this year with what's going to be available, it's going to be tough. We would have had to mothball and make available much more manufacturing capacity than we had available at the time that this crisis came. We really didn't plan for this. We didn't have the infrastructure and the idle capacity to be able to surge production of so many biologics to satisfy a global need.
I think it's a non-starter to think that the U.S. would ship the vaccines that it's purchased outside of the United States before, again, the end of May, when it seems like every adult would be able to get that vaccine. But then I guess the next question is, what do they do with the manufacturing that is done after every adult has gotten it? Because there have been questions raised about whether you would need a booster shot from a second J&J shot, whether there would be something else coming from Pfizer and Moderna, whether and when you'd be able to start vaccinating people who are younger than age 16 in the United States. You think we hoard that, or do you think we immediately start sharing once we hit that May expected deadline of all adults getting it?
Yeah, I think we're going to stockpile some of it, but I don't think that the stockpiling is the issue. We're talking about a global demand that's billions of doses, and we're talking about the U.S. holding on to tens of millions of doses. The U.S., there's two facilities that Pfizer's operating at. Take one example that I know, one in Europe, one in the U.S. The U.S. facility is satisfying U.S. needs, but it will be satisfying other country needs as well. Our allies are going to be their needs are going to be met out of that facility also. The European facility is satisfying European needs and ex-U.S. needs. That's the situation with a lot of the companies, where they're operating multiple manufacturing sites, both in the U.S. and Europe, and they're trying to satisfy a global need from basically a sort of distributed production system. There just isn't enough. It's not a question of what the U.S. is holding on to and what we're stockpiling. The amount that we're going to actually use and hold on to is a relatively small amount when compared to the global need. The bigger problem is we just don't have a global manufacturing enterprise that are able to scale up quickly enough to satisfy that global need this year. We'll satisfy a good chunk of it, but not the entire global need.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.